The Varnuk base ship floated just above the battlefield, hidden in the thick clouds. Inside, alarms were going off. Soldiers were shouting. Systems were failing one by one. Commander Threx stood frozen in the control room. His eyes were still locked on the screen showing the human figure. "He still hasn't moved," whispered a junior officer. Threx didn't reply. His mind was racing. Fear sat heavy in his chest. This was no normal enemy. This was something else, something ancient, something buried. He turned to his chief science officer. "Tell me what this is." The officer, a thin alien with bright blue skin and 6 eyes, was shaking. He tapped on his tablet, trying to avoid looking at the screen. "We ran deep scans, Commander," he said. 3 times. The figure is human, mostly, but there's something inside him." "What kind of something?" "We don't know. It's like a black hole, but alive. Every time we scan it, our systems shut down. The last scan team, they didn't survive." Threx blinked. "They're dead." "No," said the scientist quietly. "They're not dead. They're just blank. No thoughts, no memories, just sitting there, eyes open, saying nothing." Threx felt cold. How far were they from the figure? 5 kilometers. The command room went silent. 5 kilometers, and already minds were breaking. "What's his power source?" Threx asked. "What is he using?" The scientist shook his head. "No tech detected. No energy signature. He's not using anything." Threx growled. "Then how is he doing this?" The science officer took a breath. "I have one theory. A story I heard long ago. A human legend." Threx looked at him. "Speak." The officer tapped his screen and pulled up a very old file. It had no official symbol, no seal, just a black box with red letters. "Project Gravestone," he said. "A secret human experiment, shut down 100 years ago. The files were erased, but I found fragments." He opened the file. There was a name. Just one. Subject 0. Threx read the name slowly. 0. Yes, the humans tried to create the perfect weapon. Not a machine. Not a bomb. A living being. One that could break armies just by being near. No attacks. No war cries. Just presence. Why didn't they use him before? "They said it was too dangerous," the officer said. "Too unstable. Even humans feared what they had created, so they locked him away in deep space. But he's here now," Threx said, his voice low. The science officer nodded. "And they didn't send him. That's the part that scares me." "What do you mean?" "He woke up, on his own." Meanwhile, down on the battlefield, the Silent One still stood in the same spot. The wind didn't touch him. The air around him felt thick and slow. A small Varnuk squad watched him from behind a broken wall. One of them, a young warrior named Vek, whispered, "Why doesn't he move?" Another soldier replied, "Because he doesn't have to." Then something strange happened. The sky changed again. Not just the clouds. Not just the wind. The light itself shifted. Everything became slightly darker, as if the sun had grown afraid. Birds no longer sang. Machines stopped humming. Time itself felt slower. And then, one alien soldier took a step closer. He had orders to collect DNA, just a small sample, nothing more. He moved carefully, holding a scanner in one hand, shaking badly. He reached within 20 meters, then 10, then 5. The moment he lifted his scanner toward the Silent One, he screamed, a sound not of pain, but of terror. He dropped to the ground, clutching his head. His eyes rolled back. His body twitched. And then he whispered one word over and over again. "Gravestone, gravestone, gravestone." His heart stopped. He was dead. The other soldiers ran. Back in the command ship, more strange things were happening. Eye systems refused to speak. Screens went black. Weapons locked themselves down. A whisper filled the halls. No speakers, no radios, just a voice, calm, cold, echoing from the walls themselves. "Leave." Threx stepped back. Did anyone else hear that? Everyone nodded. One technician, shaking, said, "Commander, this ship, this entire army, we are not facing a human. We are standing in front of something that even humans fear." Threx clenched his fists. "What is he?" No one answered. But in the silence, they all thought the same thing. Not a man, not a soldier. A warning. And they were too close. The Varnock War Council gathered deep inside their dreadnought ship, orbiting far above the battlefield. Thick walls of steel surrounded them, designed to survive nuclear attacks and black hole blasts. But no wall could protect them from fear. Every officer in the room had seen the same thing. One man, no weapons, no movement, and entire armies falling apart. High General Kor sat at the end of the long table. His face was like stone. A scar ran across his mouth from an old battle. He had fought humans before. He had destroyed planets. He had never feared anything. Until now. He looked around at the other generals, all silent, all pale. He slammed his fist on the table. "We are the Varnock. We do not kneel. We do not run." No one answered. "I asked for a report," he barked. A data officer stood up, shaking. He spoke slowly. "The figure is still standing in the same spot. No signs of movement. No signs of attack. But we've lost contact with all forward units within 5 kilometers of his location." "Dead?" "No," the officer said. "Not dead. Just silent. Their vitals are normal, but they don't speak, don't move. They just sit and stare." Another general whispered, like they saw something they weren't supposed to see. Like their minds broke. Kor gritted his teeth. "Then we bomb the area. Burn it. Use orbital strikes." The officer flinched. "We already tried." "Sir." "What?" "We dropped plasma bombs. 5 of them. Straight on his position. The explosions were massive. The earth cracked. Fire spread for kilometers. And the officer showed a live video feed. The smoke cleared. The figure was still standing. In the same spot. Not even dust on his armor. Not even a scratch. The room fell silent again. Another general leaned forward. He was old, worn from many wars. "I think I know what this is," he said softly. All eyes turned to him. He continued, 50 years ago, during the human-Varnock border war, we heard stories, only whispers, about a beam the humans locked away, a weapon so dangerous. They feared it themselves." "What kind of weapon?" Kor asked. The old general's voice dropped to a whisper. "They called him the gravestone." The word made the lights flicker. The AI system beeped twice, then shut off. Kor's mouth twisted. "A legend. A fairy tale." "No," the general said. "A warning. A being created to end wars. Not by fighting, but by ending hope itself." "You mean fear?" The general nodded. "More than fear. He doesn't destroy bodies. He destroys belief. He kills from the inside, just by existing." Kor stood up, pacing. "Then why now? Why has he appeared?" No one answered. And then, for the first time, something changed on the battlefield. The human figure moved. Not much. Just one small tilt of the head, like he had heard something, or sensed someone. Scanners on the Varnock dreadnought began to fail again. Systems went offline one by one. Lights dimmed. The air turned cold. Everyone in the command room felt it, like something ancient had just opened its eyes. A comms officer shouted, "Sir, he's looking at us." "We're in orbit," Kor said. "How can he see us?" "I don't know," the officer screamed. "But he's looking up, straight at us." On the screen, the figure raised his head. His face was still hidden under a black helmet, but even through the camera, it felt like his eyes were inside the ship. Kor took a step back. "He knows where we are," someone whispered. Then the voice came again. This time, through every speaker in the ship, deep, calm, cold. "You should not have come here." Soldiers fell to their knees, not from pain, but from the weight of the words. They had heard threats before. This was not a threat. This was truth. A message, a sentence, a death sentence. Down on the battlefield, the Varnak scout teams began to retreat. One of them, a young alien named Creel, was breathing hard as he ran behind a broken wall. He had been in war since he was old enough to walk. But this was different. He turned to his team. "Did you feel that?" he asked. They nodded. Creel looked back toward the still figure. "I don't think we're fighting a man," he said. One soldier asked, "Then what is he?" Creel stared at the figure and said softly, "He's the thing that comes after the war ends." The sky was filled with fire. One by one, the Varnak warships fell from orbit, crashing into the ground like dying stars. Some exploded before they touched the Earth. Others burned for miles, leaving trails of smoke across the planet. No one had seen anything like it. Ships that were meant to conquer entire civilizations were now broken pieces of metal, smashed, melted, useless. All brought down by one man who hadn't even lifted a finger. On the surface, the Silent One remained in the same place, standing tall, motionless, silent. The ground around him was cracked. Air shimmered with heat. Nothing living was near him, not animals, not insects, not even plants. Even the wind refused to blow near him. It was like the world itself stayed away. Far from the battlefield, in a hidden Varnak bunker, a small group of survivors huddled together. These were not normal soldiers. They were command agents, special forces, trained for every type of enemy. But now they were shaking like children. "We need to escape," one of them whispered. Another replied, "Where? Every ship is down. He's pulling them from the sky." "We can run into the deep caves," someone said. "Underground tunnels go for hundreds of miles." They looked at each other. It was the only plan they had left. The Varnak survivors moved fast, diving into the old cave systems. Dark, cold, and deep. They carried food, lights, and weapons. As they moved, one of them glanced at the motion scanner. It blinked, then blinked again, and again. Something was moving toward them, fast. "Did he follow us?" someone asked. "No," the leader said. "He stayed behind. He didn't move." The scanner kept blinking. Then it shut off. Every light in the cave died. Darkness swallowed them. Then came the sound. Not footsteps, not weapons, but something far worse. A heartbeat. Deep, loud, slow. Boom, boom, boom. But it wasn't just sound. They could feel it inside their bones, like something was walking inside the earth itself. One of them screamed, "Run!" But no one could run. Their legs wouldn't move. Their minds froze. A whisper came through the dark cave, not spoken, not shouted, but felt inside their heads. There is no escape. Outside the caves, the human observation team watched quietly. Captain Lee stood on the edge of the cliff, watching the smoke rise in the distance. Her team was silent. Even the machines were quiet now. One young soldier spoke up. "Is it really him?" Lee nodded slowly. "Yes." "He's really back?" "Yes." The soldier swallowed hard. "Why did we unseal him? Why bring back something like that?" Lee didn't answer for a moment. Then she said softly, "Because they forced our hand." Back on the battlefield, there were no more Varnak attacks. No weapons fired. No fleets moved. The entire invasion had collapsed. From over 2 million soldiers, only a few thousand were left. And none of them were fighting. They were running. hiding, praying. But it didn't matter, because the Silent One could find them anywhere. In the dark, in the sky, underground. He didn't chase them. He didn't need to. They came to his world. And now, it belonged to him. High General Kor sat alone in the ruins of his dreadnought, smoke rising around him. Blood on his face, body broken, mind almost gone. He stared up at the sky, where the stars were now blocked by clouds and ash. He spoke with dry lips. We thought he was just a man. A faint sound echoed across the wreckage. It was laughter. Not cruel, not loud, just a single chuckle, low and calm. Kor turned. The Silent One was standing beside him, face hidden, body still. But Kor could feel it. He was smiling. The Varnuk general closed his eyes, and for the first time in his life, he accepted death. Some were scared, some ashamed, some hopeful. Ishen looked into the camera. Eli Voss didn't destroy your leaders because he hated you. He took a breath. He did it because you left him no choice. He tapped the device off. Earth will not rule the galaxy. People gasped. Earth will not become your master. Even more shocked faces. We don't want control. We want respect. We want peace. And if we're attacked again. He leaned forward. You know what we're capable of. Then he said the words that would be remembered forever. We were quiet once. Never again. Across the stars, planets began changing. Old empires fell. New leaders rose, ones who promised to listen. Small species that were once ignored found new voices, and everyone started looking toward Earth, not with fear, but with a strange new feeling. Hope. Eli Voss never returned to a normal life. He didn't want medals. He didn't want power. He just wanted one thing. He searched old systems. He went to forgotten colonies. He spoke to survivors. And then, one day, he found her. In a quiet village on a green moon. A little girl, older now, but with the same bright eyes. She looked up at him. Daddy? He dropped to his knees, tears falling from his eyes. Yes, baby, I came for you. She ran into his arms. The galaxy had broken him, but she had healed him. And that was how the war ended. Not with bombs, not with fire, but with a father and daughter holding each other under the stars. Years later, stories would be told. Of the silent human who became a storm, of the council that begged for mercy, of a galaxy that finally listened. But one message was always written at the end. Never ignore the quiet ones, because sometimes they are the loudest of all. The Great War Hall of the Xarnak Empire was filled with noise. Tall alien generals, each with shining medals and armored suits, stood around a glowing table. Holograms of battles, ships, and maps floated in the air. They had won the last war. They had defeated the human fleet, or so they believed. In the center of the room sat a human, alone, unchained, silent. He was not a soldier. No gun, no armor, not even handcuffs on his wrists. He just sat there on a metal chair, head slightly bowed, eyes half closed, like he was sleeping or thinking deeply. One of the Xarnak guards looked at him and laughed. This is the mighty human they captured, he said. He doesn't even look dangerous. But something felt wrong. The air was colder near him. Even the machines around the room flickered now and then. Security systems beeped and restarted without reason. One of the alien officers tried to scan him, but the device broke in his hand. The human didn't move. Bring the mind readers, said General Krace, the leader of the Xarnak War Council. Two tall, thin aliens with glowing eyes entered. They were known as the Readers. They could enter the mind of any living being in the galaxy. They stood on both sides of the human and touched his temples. Silence. Suddenly, both readers gasped and fell backward. One of them screamed. The other began to cry like a child. General Krace stepped forward. "What did you see?" One of the readers, shaking, said, "Nothing but darkness, endless darkness. No thoughts, no mind, only a storm of death." The human opened his eyes. He didn't say a word. He just looked at the reader. The reader stopped breathing. He fell to the floor, lifeless. Panic spread across the room. Guards raised their weapons. Alarms rang. Doctors rushed to check the reader's body, but there was no cause of death. His heart had simply stopped. Still, the human sat there, quiet and still. "Who is he?" whispered an old alien officer. "This is not a normal human." Another alien, a scientist named Varka, rushed into the room. "Stop everything," he shouted. "Don't touch him. Don't speak to him. You have no idea what you've brought here." General Krays turned. "Explain." Varka's hands were shaking. He held an old, cracked datapad. 30 years ago, another race, the Varnari, disappeared. Entire planets, gone in a single night. Only one image was found in the ruins. He turned the pad toward the council. The screen showed a picture. The same human, the same face, sitting silently in the middle of destruction. "It's impossible," Krays said. "That happened decades ago." Varka nodded. "Yes, and he has not aged. He does not speak, but wherever he goes, death follows." More officers began to whisper. Some stepped away from the human. Others left the room in fear. The human still didn't move. Then the power in the entire war hall shut off. Darkness swallowed everything. Emergency red lights flickered on. "All systems are crashing," someone shouted. The human looked up, slowly. At that moment, every alien in the room felt it. Fear. Not just fear of death, not fear of pain, but a deep ancient fear, the kind that lived in every creature's DNA, the kind that said, "You are prey, and he is the predator." General Krays took a step back. His voice was weak now. "Why is he not doing anything?" Varka whispered, "That's what he does. He waits. He lets fear eat you alive. And then when you beg, he decides if you live." Just then, one of the strongest war commanders, General Tharn, dropped his weapon. He fell to his knees. "Please," Tharn said, his voice cracking. "I have children. I didn't know. Please don't kill me." One by one, others followed. Generals, warriors, guards, all kneeling, pleading, crying. The human said nothing. He simply looked at them, with calm eyes. And yet it was clear. He had all the power now. In silence, before the human was brought to the war hall, the aliens were celebrating. The Xarnak Empire had just defeated a human scout fleet near the edge of Sector 12. They found one human ship floating silently, no weapons active. Inside, they found him, alone. No crew, no damage. Just him, sitting calmly in the pilot's seat. At first, the alien soldiers thought it was easy prey. They expected a fight, but he surrendered without a word. No resistance, no emotion, just silence. That was their first mistake. Commander Ruz, who led the capture mission, stood proudly when they returned. "We've caught a human alive," he said. "We'll study him. Maybe use him to pressure Earth." General Krays had nodded then. "Good. Let them know that Xarnak do not fear humans." But now, after what had happened in the war hall, those words tasted like poison. The Varnak forces began pulling back. What started as a retreat turned into a full panic. Fighters fled the ground. Dropships launched without orders. Even high-ranking officers ran, throwing down their weapons and leaving equipment behind. No one wanted to be near him. The silent one. The gravestone. He had not moved more than one step. And yet, every soldier who saw him couldn't stop shaking. Some couldn't even speak anymore. They just whispered his name over and over again. A name humans buried. A name aliens were never meant to know. Gravestone. High General Kor stood at the bridge of the command ship. His fists were tight. His eyes burned with anger and fear. He watched from orbit as thousands of his troops ran. "This is madness," he growled. "We are the most powerful army in this galaxy. We don't run from shadows." But deep down, even he felt the pull. Not fear like in battle. Not fear of death. Something colder, older, final. A fear that felt like the end of everything. "Status of the fleet," Kor demanded. A soldier answered. "Half the ground units are gone. 10 transports have jumped to hyperspace without permission. No one is answering calls." "Then activate the full fleet," Kor said. "I want everything we have in this system. If retreat is not enough, we erase the entire battlefield." The officer stared at him. "Sir, you want to fire orbital cannons?" "Yes. But our own forces are still down there." Kor turned slowly, his eyes sharp. "If they cannot fight, then they are already lost." The Varnak fleet powered up. Giant cannons lit the dark sky. Energy surged across warships. Missiles loaded. Plasma turrets turned. From space, it looked like a storm of fire was about to fall. And it did. Explosions shook the planet. Fire rained down. Everything. Trees, metal, stone, burned. Shockwaves rolled through the valleys. Entire mountains cracked. But when the smoke cleared, he was still there. Standing. Not burned. Not moved. Not touched. Inside the Varnak dreadnought, silence fell. No one spoke. No one moved. They had just used the most powerful weapons in their arsenal. And it had done nothing. Kor stepped back. What is he?" he whispered. Then the lights flickered again. Systems failed. Alarms started. Something was wrong. "Engine 1 shutting down," said a voice from the control system. "What?" Kor shouted. "Engine 2 offline." One by one, ship systems stopped working. Lights died. Air became thin. Power vanished. And then the voice came again. From inside the ship. "I told you. Leave." On the lower decks, soldiers screamed. Doors slammed shut on their own. Lights exploded. Weapons melted in their hands. Some tried to shoot their way out, but their guns were useless. Others dropped to their knees. A few began crying, not from pain, from hopelessness. They had come as conquerors. Now they were trapped, like prey. Meanwhile, on the ground, the sky had turned red. The Silent One lifted his head slightly. Only slightly. But something changed. Every single Varnak ship in low orbit began to descend. Not by choice. Something had grabbed them. Something invisible. And it was pulling them down. Inside those ships, chaos exploded. Pilots screamed. Systems locked. Engines failed. They were being dragged like insects caught in a web. Toward the planet. Toward him. In the command room, alarms blared. "Sir, we're losing altitude. Something is pulling us in." Kor shouted, "Reverse thrusters. Emergency jump. Now." But nothing worked. Every ship was being pulled down. Not by gravity. Not by force. By will. By him. Back at the human observation post, far beyond the mountains, a small team of human agents stood silently. One of them, a woman named Captain Lee, watched through a special scope. She saw the Silent One standing still, and the Varnak ships crashing down around him like falling stars. A soldier beside her spoke softly. "Ma'am, should we call him back?" Lee shook her head. "No." "Why not?" She lowered the scope and whispered, "Because they haven't learned yet." The sitting man nodded. "Do we activate him?" Another voice asked. Silence. Then, "No." The first voice replied calmly, "It's already too late. You don't activate a revenant. You simply wait." Back in the Tarnak Empire, General Krays stared at the silent human. His hand shook as he held the file. "You mean he's one of them?" Varka nodded. "Worse, he's the first one. The prototype." "Why would Earth release him now?" Krays asked. Varka's face turned pale. "They didn't. He escaped. That changed everything. This wasn't a message. This was personal. And that meant Earth was still holding back." Thousands of light years away, near a dark zone of space, a Xarnak scout ship stopped moving. Inside, the crew screamed. They had just received an unknown transmission. No voice, no face. Just 3 words burned into their screens. "He is coming." Then every system on the ship shut down. Engines, lights, life support. Only one thing kept working. The scream, repeating the same message over and over. "He is coming." General Krays tried to speak with Earth. He sent messages through every open channel. But Earth didn't reply. Not with words. They simply sent a video. In it, a black flag waved in the wind. No music, no sound. Just one sentence written below. "You took our silence for weakness." After that, Earth went dark. No signals, no response. But across the stars, Xarnak stations began falling one by one. No enemies were seen. No battles were fought. Just silence, followed by destruction. And always in the ashes, someone found the same mark. A small handprint burned into the walls. Human-sized, child-sized. In the war hall, General Krays couldn't sleep. He hadn't slept for days. He stared at the human, still sitting calmly in the center of the room. "Why?" Krays finally asked. "Why are you doing this?" The human looked up for the first time in hours. He spoke. One word. Quiet. Cold. Deadly. "She." Then he looked down again. Varka stepped back. "He's not killing us for fun. He's doing it for her." "Who is she?" Krays whispered. Varka shook his head. "I don't want to know." But it didn't matter. Because now, the question wasn't if the Xarnak Empire would fall. The question was, would anyone survive long enough to tell the story? It started with one planet. Trenka, a mining world deep in the Xarnak Empire. One moment, it was alive with machines, miners, and massive energy towers. The next moment, nothing. All signals went dark. No distress call. No warning. No escape. When a patrol ship reached it 6 hours later, they found silence. No bodies. No damage. No signs of battle. Just emptiness. Buildings stood untouched. Food was still warm in the kitchens. Ships sat fully fueled. But there wasn't a single soul left. Gone. General Krays watched the footage with cold fear in his eyes. "What is this?" he asked. The answer came from Varka. "It's him," the old scientist whispered. "He's moving." They didn't know how. He was still sitting in the war hall, silent, calm. But somehow, everywhere he had once looked was now gone. Within the next 24 hours, 5 more planets went silent. Not just Xarnak worlds, even their allies. Trillions, Marnax, and the Red Fang Pact were hit. None were spared. The same pattern. No signs of attack. No damage. No survivors. One small, human-sized handprint burned into a wall. Panic spread like wildfire. High Command tried to issue new orders. Lock down every planet. Seal the borders. Search every ship. But it didn't help. Because nothing came in. And still, planets kept going dark. Back in the war hall, the silent human finally stood up. The guards raised their weapons, but he didn't attack. He simply looked at the ceiling, his eyes closed. A moment later, every screen in the room flickered. Then the sound of a child laughing echoed from the speakers. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was a memory. Then came her voice, soft and sweet. "Daddy, you promised you'd never let them take me." And then, screams. The guards dropped their weapons. Some fell to their knees. Others ran. Only General Krays and Varka stayed. The human opened his eyes. "You took her." Krays trembled. "I didn't know. I swear." The human didn't reply. Because now, it didn't matter. At the same time, across the stars, the Xarnak throne world, Zarvan Prime, went silent. Zarvan was a fortress planet, shielded, armed, guarded by 1,000,000 soldiers. It didn't matter. By the time backup ships arrived, it was already too late. They saw the same thing. Empty cities, running water, lights still on, and one wall scratched with blood, carrying a message. "You should have listened."